Welcome, everyone. I'm Katie Capuzzo, Director of Community at Wise, and together we're a global community dedicated to empowering the next generation of women in sales. Happy Women in Sales Month. I was just telling the panelists here that I didn't necessarily plan this topic to come at the beginning of a new quarter, but it's very timely. So thank you so much for joining us today. Huge thanks to Huntress and Zebra Technologies for supporting today's event. We are officially in the last quarter of the year, like I mentioned, and alone that may prompt some stress for you, but then to add in the extras like holidays, additional travel, and it takes it to another level. So we're going to dive into ways to make sure that your mindset is protected, your energy is protected. We'll talk through some strategies for that and then what our panelists have learned along the way, doing it right and maybe doing it wrong sometimes. So joining me in that conversation is Paula Rice, Director of Revenue Retention at Huntress, and Artemisa Jondes, Senior Channel Sales Manager at Zebra Technologies. So Paula, I'll hand it over to you first to tell us a little more about yourself.
Excellent. So, as we mentioned earlier, I am currently at Huntress as the Director of Revenue Retention. I have started out my career running IT organizations and made my way into account management and customer success. I find that's where my passions lie and just love getting time to spend with partners and customers and making them successful.
Great. Artemisa?
Hello, Artemisa Jandis. So as Katie mentioned, I am the healthcare and government senior channel sales manager here at Zebra Technologies. I've been with Zebra for 21 years. This has been my home for 21 years. It's been amazing. When I first started here at Zebra, I was a customer service rep, so have transitioned into several different roles. And currently leading our healthcare and government channel reseller ecosystem. Based near our corporate headquarters near Lincolnshire, Illinois. I am a wife for the past 20 years. And I also have two wonderful daughters, one in college at Penn State and one in high school. So thanks for having me, Katie.
Amazing. So excited for the conversation today. Throughout it, jump into the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from so we can see where everyone is across the globe today. And then let's get into it. Oh, at the end, one reminder, we will jump into audience Q&A. So if you have any questions, there's a little Q&A box at the bottom of the screen that you can throw questions in there or in the chat. All right, now let's get into it. This one is for both of you, and we'll start with you, Paula. Between work and personal life, there's a lot on your plates. How do you decide what gets your time and energy first?
Yeah, you bet. That's a good question. So, at the beginning of the year, I always set my intention or my strategy for what do I want to accomplish? When do I want to accomplish it? And how am I going to accomplish it? And so for me, I'm always looking at, what have I set as some non-negotiables and how does that fit into my strategy I've set for myself for the year? So for sure, I'm going to focus on those things that are directly aligned. I'm going to focus on things that are going to help propel my team forward. And then lastly, what is it that I need to do to make sure that our customers are successful and make sure their needs are taken care of as well. So I really like to focus on, those three things. And sometimes the order of those changes, by the way, because as much as we like to talk about balance and how do you perfect the balance, the truth is priorities shift, business changes, and you need to shift and change with it and be willing to reverse priorities if you need to.
That's an important distinction, that things can shift and change. Artemisa, do you have anything to add there?
For me, I would say, I think there was some lessons learned along the way, right? So as I mentioned, I've been here with 21 years and I tried to progress in my career. And I think there was some lessons along the way of just making like family a priority. So, making sure that I go in right as we kick off the school year, put in like my kids, conferences or time off or spring breaks or whatever that may be. And then I can kind of revolve like my work around that, being okay to say no on certain situations and things like that, just to make sure that I am home for those things. Because again, I think early on, I would just say yes to everything. And, and it was just, I was not as home as much and I, was doing different things. So I think as Paula mentioned, priorities kind of shifted and I said, you know what, they're only going to be little for so long. I need to make that a priority. And then it's kind of the work. And then kind of like to your point, Paula, making sure like what's our goal, what's our, quarter goal, what's our year goal, what's even the goal of the week, the day, of making sure we have, some small accomplishments there, but just a little bit there.
Yeah. And that'll be something that comes up throughout both of y'all's careers is establishing the non-negotiables and then planning in advance. And I think that sometimes when there's a lot on our plates, that planning aspect gets shifted because we got to just address the things in front of us. But both of y'all have had some good strategies around making sure that you spend time preparing for what's to come so that it's easier in the moment. So, Paula, you've been in a situation where you've actually been waiting for others to get something over the line on New Year's, which I think some of us can resonate with that feeling of wanting to be offline with family, friends, and then having
Yeah.
to be online for a work emergency. What's your strategy for holiday planning, and how do you ensure your team is aligned?
Absolutely. So what I like to do is understand, what are the non-negotiables for other people, right? And how do we work backwards to make sure that they're able to hit their non-negotiables? And so for them, if it's, hey, I want to be off the week between Christmas and New Year's, great. What's your plan? What's your close plan for each one of your deals to get those across the line to make sure that we hit that? What have you communicated to your partners or customers? How are you going to assist them to make sure that's done? What's your communication plan with them? What happens if all of that falls apart? Who's going to pick up the work and do it? Do you have a backup plan in place, right? So I'm really big in having those conversations early. So we are at the start of October. Once you hit November, you better make sure you're pretty clear with what it looks like around Thanksgiving, and then start those end of year deal conversations early as well. One thing that I have found works very well is back to the communication piece and having an agreement, right? Hey, we really want to have all of our business closed by December 20th. What does that look like in order to help us get that across the line? So for me, it's coaching and making sure that those very clear path to close plans are in place. How can I help with that? Where do you need the extra lift? And then what's your backup plan if all of that fails?
Hmm. Do you find that you're oftentimes prompting those questions and making sure that your direct reports are thinking about things that maybe they could be missing, or oftentimes are people coming to the table knowing exactly kind of where to chart their path?
Absolutely. So I think this is one of those times where executing on the basics is essential. I don't think anything I'm going to say during this conversation is going to be, the silver bullet or something no one's ever heard before. But what happens is in crunch time, you kind of forget about, what are those basics and those best practices, and you're just scrambling to try to get something done. So I find just having the conversation about who from the customer needs to sign this, do they have any impending events that are, driving the deal timing on this? What are their plans? Like, hey, did you ask them, are they planning on working the week after Thanksgiving or, the week between Christmas and New Year's? And once again, I think it's just reminding people of the basics.
Hmm. Yeah, oftentimes, like you said, those basics can get lodged in the back of my mind when other things are going on. So that's a great reminder. Artemisa, you were well into your career at Zebra when you decided to get your bachelor's degree. What led to that decision, and how did you balance being a working mother and student?
Yes. I would say so. Just a little bit, just back history there. I was one of those. I was never the best student in high school, right? And went to community college. Took some classes here and there. Was I knew that I wanted to get my degree, but didn't know what I wanted to do. Started working full time. Who doesn't love to make money? And and you're young, right? And then met my husband. We had and started having kids. So I put a pause on that. And at about maybe 2014 or 2015, I had already been, working a few years, and I wanted to progress in my career. And, that was a conversation that I'd have with, several of my leaders, right? Managers, supervisors, and others. And, kind of understanding like, what do I have to do to continue to progress in my career? Or I would apply for roles and I really wasn't getting the roles. And what was I missing? And I appreciate, some of those leaders that were transparent and candid with me. It was like, you don't have that degree. So, that was one of those things where I had to take a step back and, like, all right, when is it going to be time for me? When is that time going to be? And, talk to my husband about it. And I said, I think it's time. I think I'm going to go back and I want to get my degree. So, he backed me up 100%. It was not easy, right? It was a lot of late nights and studying and papers and, discussion boards and everything that you had to do, but he had my back. So that was one of those things where I don't think, having him and then plus my kids and things, or and my parents that helped me out, to just, that had my back and everything. And were able to just like, sit with the kids and do what they had to do so that I had study time. And that was one of those things where like at the end of the day, I knew that, that would come with better opportunities like that, that would help me, help our family, and then continue to progress in the career and then continue to allow us to do nice things and go on nice vacations, right? It's taking that time to, self-reflect and, focus on myself and my career. And I think it has definitely paid off. It's one of those things where my family continues to ask me like, well, when are you going to get your next degree? And I'll be candid. I have a daughter who's in college and then one that's a junior in high school. And again, I only have a little bit of time with them. So I'm pausing that for now, but I'm not taking it off the table. So maybe in a few years, I'll see what else is next.
That's a great example of where it's a personal goal that also impacts your career. And so for you, the trade-off was worth it. I'm curious looking back because I would imagine a lot of planning and conversations went into that decision. Is there anything you would have done differently?
Um, Differently at that time, probably not. No, I enjoyed it. I went through it. Now, like looking back, it's a blur because I was like, how did I even manage that? Where sometimes, you're just like, you work all day and then like, let's say somebody asks you to go out. You're like, I can't even manage going out. How did I, cram like everything in there, plus studying, plus exams, plus, soccer games and softball games and travel for work. I had no idea how I did it. So it got done. But no, I would, I mean, obviously if I could go back, I would have gone probably to college right after high school. I think it would have been a lot easier than trying to manage everything. But there's always a reason for everything, right? And I think a lot of things that I had already worked towards, that I had experience in, I was able to apply as I went to get my degree. And it made sense. I was like, oh, like this is why marketing and this is, how business is done. So I was able to apply a lot of the things that I was already learning at Zebra.
Yeah. There's something to be said for really being able to learn it and already have like an applicable use case for it while you're
Right.
learning it. I got my degree in fashion and here I am in something completely unrelated. So that's cool to hear. Let's stick with you for this question and then Paula, I want your take on it. How do you reset when you feel yourself approaching burnout?
Oh my gosh. I would say for me, I shut it down and I go on a walk.
Hmm.
I think some people that know me know that I do have two phones. I carry two phones for a reason, because it's hard for me. Like I love my job. I love what I do. I love working and I can get consumed by it. But like everyone, right? I'm human. And if I'm just having a bad day, I usually shut it down and I just take my own personal phone and then I'll listen to music. Music is like my number one for me. Like I may have it in the background, or even just on a walk. I have two Labradoodles. So, as soon as I shut down, like they hear me say goodbye or they hear Teams shut down, they come right up to me and they're like, all right, is it walk time? But that's my number one. When I feel like I'm about to like burn out, I shut it down. And I appreciate having leadership that say like, just take some time, walk away, do what you have to do. And on the weekends too, like I'm big on that. I mean, I'm in sales, so I'm constantly checking my phone because, you never know.
Right.
But if it's something where I'm like, you know what, I just need like a mental break, like I'm gonna leave my phone here and I'll go and go on a walk. You know, if it's dinner time, you know, maybe enjoy just dinner with my family without that work phone. And then on the weekend, same thing. I love to watch my girls play softball, or volley or whatever it is, and I'll just leave work phone at home.
Yeah. Something active, something change of scenery, it sounds like for
Yes,
you.
yes, yes.
Paula, what about for you?
So much like Artemisa, I take that time and put my headphones on and go walk a little pug mix named Josie Wales that I have, and another little mixed dog named Pickle. So for us, it is just time for me to give them my attention and drift away. I do find that having that time away from staring at a camera and at a screen really helps provide some clarity so that I can come back and not feel so overwhelmed about the 9 million things, right, that are going on. And I've focused and I've put my priorities back into place so that I can come back and be productive. What I find the worst thing to do is, oh, I'm just going to power through it and it'll be okay. It really is. I have to walk away from this office that I'm in. And it's a double-edged sword, in my opinion, of, a work from home culture that we have, because I still got to come back here.
Mhm.
It's not like when I walk away for the day, I walk away for the day, right? It's still living and breathing in the house that I'm in.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
such a
it is. Let's establish that. You're fully remote, Paula. And then
Yes.
Artemisa, you're fully remote as well, or are you ever going into the office?
I'm fully remote.
Okay. Same here. And I think that one thing for me that's been helpful is establishing like what is that thing that is going to separate my work day from my non-work day. And for me, that's cooking. So once I start cooking dinner, the office door shuts and it feels like a mental reset and sort of like my second part of my day has started. So I think the points that you brought up, Paula and Artemisa, both make a lot of sense. And whatever that thing is that is going to be the trigger for you to shut down the day or have that mental reset is really important to identify.
Absolutely. Especially, I mean, we're all emotional, right? We all just have emotions and we want to react. And I think as soon as I find myself like just typing like angrily or something,
Yeah.
or rereading something, or, you know, it's just like, no, just let it be. Like, calm down, like, respond later on. It's okay. It doesn't need an immediate response. Like, it's all right. Reset.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I have had a few instances where I will read something and I won't even realize I've taken it out of context because I have this personal history with the thing. And the times that I have actually done the thing where I paused and come back to it later, you come to it with such a different mindset. And I realize like, oh, I missed that word that like connects this whole sentence that makes it not the thing I thought it was. So I love that you say pause, reset, come back to it later. It's okay.
Yeah. I'll also just like call somebody. Like, I think so many times you get so caught up in like the back and forth emails or the text messages or just like lack thereof, and you're just like you let it fester. So, you know, and I do the same thing with my team, like just call or set up a quick
Mhm.
call, or, you know, like reach out to them, because I think things could get taken out of context so fast. And especially when I like sometimes I'll sit here and somebody send an email and then like I don't know, you know, 5 minutes later, there's like 10 emails of back and forth. And I was like, you probably could have just picked up the phone and just, you know, asked the question.
Yeah.
It's- a lot of things get taken out of context there.
I think at one point, someone in my career said, you should always assume that there's the best intent behind the communication. And I find that helps me with the, hey, just take a breath
Mhm.
Mhm.
and try to think about. Now, unfortunately, not every one of them is like that. But right, if you come at it with that as your first thought, it does help to diffuse some of those stressful situations and maybe eliminate a lot of anxiety that we put on ourselves about something that really isn't even meant to drive that anxiety in us. So I always think about that little voice in the back of my head, that person saying, always assume that this person had the best intent in sending this message.
Right. And what both of y'all have alluded to is we miss the tone in email and text. And now that we are more in a hybrid working environment where you're not in person or seeing people or hearing their tonality and their voice every day, you can lose a little bit of that. So I think that's a great message. Get on the phone, assume the best. It'll make all of our energies better. Artemisa, how would you describe the energy that you bring to work? And then how do you protect that energy when attention is being pulled in different directions throughout the day?
Like I think I do a pretty good job. Like I come in, I reset every day. I think I mentioned to you, when we've talked before, like I don't hold a lot of grudges and I don't let it consume my thoughts for the most part. When things happen, like I like to just I reset every day. Come in, like I'm not gonna say I'm positive every single day and I'm like, oh, I'm in such a good mood. I'm human. But I do come in and just, like curious on what's going on, say good morning, talk to people, I'm a big fan of just like picking up a phone, talking to somebody, like what's going on versus the whole back and forth. I think Zebra has done a nice job of just like, creating this like positive culture as well, like assume positive intent. You were just talking about that, right? Where, like, did they mean it? Maybe I misinterpreted that. I'd say I'm passionate. Sometimes I think people may think, just like, oh my gosh, like I get loud, but I'm just passionate. It's just me. I think it's like, especially, like Mexican American. So it's in my culture. I'm not yelling at anybody. It's just like, that's how I am. I'm very passionate. And I mentioned earlier, like I love what I do. And so sometimes because I have been here for 21 years, like I'm just like, can I give you my suggestion or can I tell you from my experience? So, and then I'll be, I'm honest, like, I try not to multitask, but it's very hard being a leader, having, teams coming at you, texts coming at you, in the summer when my kids are coming at me and saying like, what's for lunch? Right. And like everyone is trying to talk to me at the same time. So I'll just, it's like, hold on, give me 5 minutes, or I'll, and I think my kids are like probably the same way. Like as soon as they hear Teams shut down, that's when they can come in here or
Right.
they started texting me now. But I try to, just stay positive, try to go through it the day to day, and then try to, if it's like a team one-on-one, try to be on camera so that they do have my full attention, right? Because I think we all probably are guilty of, if I'm not on camera, it's so easy to just get distracted and then like being pulled into multiple, different directions. So I try my hardest to get on camera, and my boss does a good job of that too, because he will encourage all of us to be on camera, which then minimizes like the distractions because you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm a chronic overthinker. And so that point that you made, Artemisa, like I just reset the next day, I let it go, is so foreign to me. Is that something you've had to be intentional about that you've learned over time, or is that something that just comes naturally to you?
I would say I've had to learn it over time, because I think, for a while, like when I first became a leader, it was tough, like managing the stress, managing everyone, like different things, for those of you that are parents, on top of like getting the emails all day from work, like there's so many emails from school and there's so many things that you miss and all these things. And I had to figure out how to deal with stress. I had to figure out how to deal and how to reset. I didn't want to take it out on my kids. I didn't want to take it out on my, like my husband, of like being stressed and like, and just not wanting to talk to them or taking the time. So I had to learn how to figure out what was triggering or when I was being triggered. And so to protect that, to reset, to let it go, I've had some, a great boss that has also mentioned to me, like control the controllables, like some of those things, like it's out of my control. I cannot let it consume me. I cannot, and to your point, like I'm also like, just like like overthinker, like, oh my God, what is this? What did this happen? And some of that stuff is just out of my control. I have to let it go. So I think it's been over time. And I tell everyone, like, I think maybe like the older that I get now, it's just like I'm okay with saying no to certain things. So that again, to protect like my peace, protect what's going on. If it's something that I'm not on board with, being okay to have a voice and to say no. So I think it's been learned along the way.
Yeah.
I would just add, to what Artemisa said there, which is learning to have a little bit of grace for myself. and understanding what is the stress that's actually being put on me from the outside versus what is the stress that's coming from me on the inside. And like I said, how do I have a little bit more grace with myself, which I then feel spills over into other people in my life. And it takes time. It's not something I personally developed right away, especially coming into a leadership role. It has taken a lot of time just to realize that
Yeah.
in personal and professional.
Mhm.
Mhm. I think it's helpful to hear that both of y'all have had that. I mean, you've both been so successful in your career, and to realize that that's taken work for you is really helpful to hear. And we're going to get into that with this next question with you, Paula. But I did want to mention some great conversations happening in the chat.
I'm reading them. They're
I
great.
know they are. And there's some advice that's being thrown out about this is what I do to reset. So if other people have thoughts, good things that work for them on how to reset, or just take that mental break in the day, please feel free to share. It's really cool to see what everyone does. Paula, you mentioned that it can be difficult for you to stick to a boundary, which is so relatable. So like I said, you've been so successful in your career, you're a leader now. How have you dealt with that over time, and what have you learned along the way?
So I'm going to go back to what I said when my very first question that I answered here, which is, I start with what is my intention? What is my strategy going to be? When are the crunch times going to come in this time? So am I looking at the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year, what have you? And I don't want to fly by the seat of my pants, but I also don't want to be so boxed into some idyllic situation that's never going to happen, right? So I do try to be realistic in this, to set, what those boundaries are, and just understand, once again, give myself some grace. Not everything is going to be perfect. Like, my life is not a Pinterest board, or, some of these insane things I see on TikTok and everything, right? And I do feel that, while those things are great and, help with creativity, it just adds like this other layer on top of what's already difficult to strive to be this, amazing at house decorations or holiday decorations or whatever. So anyway, I try to just be realistic with myself, and set those boundaries as early as I can and stick to my guns, knowing that it could potentially change as priorities change for me, for family, for work, what have you. But it is definitely an acquired skill. It's not something, once again, that you just come right out and know how to do. But the sooner you learn it, the better you get at it. So for me, I do try to set the clean cut of, after this meeting is over, I'm done, I'm walking away, and I'm not going to come back on. It can wait for tomorrow. If it's an emergency situation, somebody could text me and I might look at it that way. But for the most part, I'm done with Slack, I'm done with email. And if I choose because something is going on, then that's my choice. But I do try to just have clean cuts throughout my day.
Disconnect a little bit, yeah.
And what's the reverse of that with your direct reports? Like, how do you set expectations with them when they come onto your team, that not only what they can expect from you, but what you expect for them when you're trying to maybe reach them, or if they have things going on?
Absolutely. So, I've done this for the last several teams I've led, and it's a little bit different at Huntress because of how we use Slack versus email. But previously it's been, hey, if I reach out to you via Teams or Slack, I expect for you to respond to me within an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, right? That we kind of decide. If it's an email, I expect a response within that business day. Hey, if I have gone now to the next level and I'm texting or calling you, it's not going to happen very often. So just know that it is super important if I'm doing that. I'm going to exhaust all other possibilities ahead of time. So that is, the base layer that I kind of like to say in there. As far as what I can do, I now have gotten better about, hey, I have this question. I realize it's after this person's working hours because I'm in Colorado and I have some team members, whether it's in Texas or on the East Coast, and at maybe 8, 9 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, whatever, their time, I can schedule that and I still get it and I'm not disturbing them and they'll get it first thing when they log in the morning. So I know that was kind of a roundabout answer, but I do just try to set the expectations of all of the different methods of communication and when I would like to see a response.
Mhm. I think that's helpful. Like if this is an email, it's maybe less time sensitive. If it's a call or a text, be on the lookout. And I'm sure you use those sparingly. So I think that's a helpful thing for people to think about if they don't already have something like that internally. Artemisa, what was the advice your mentor gave you about dealing with pressure and how do you apply it when challenges arise?
Oh, so I remember I had a mentor a few years ago, and it was when I was dealing with like a lot of stress. And I thought I was going to go once we got set up, we got paired up. I was so excited to have her as my mentor. And I thought she was going to just give me the answers of how I was going to deal with stress. Like I was like, she does it so well. Like, she's I think VP, I think she was at finance at the time. And I was like, she does it so well. She's so well put together. She deals with so much stress in a day. Like she has to have like the secret recipe of how you deal with stress. And she jumps out because that was my first thing. I was like, I'm dealing with so much stress. What do I do? And she's like, Artemisa, you're gonna have to figure that out yourself. She's like, oh, you're always gonna have stress. So what is it like what figure out like right what is giving you stress? What are some of the things that you can do to help with that? It's like, but you're always gonna have it, especially if you continue to want to progress in your career. You're going to have to figure out what are some of those things, right? And so it's kind of like full circle of like, all right, this is where I'm at. There's some things that I like to do, right? Like just that, like maybe self-care or just being able to walk away for a little bit or knowing what my triggers are that I know that will like calm me down, that will help me reset. But I think that was one of the things like it's still in my mind because I thought that there was going to be some sort of like just like this is what will help you. Is it, people will say like, oh, yoga, or is it walking? Is it reading this book that's going to tell you, is it being so organized, whatever it is. And it's different per person. And that still sticks in my mind. So whenever I'm dealing with something, I'm just like, all right, like, let me figure it out. Is it this no longer helping? Let me try something new. Let
Right.
me, I just picked up like Orange Theory. Maybe that will help me as well. Just finding something that makes me feel good and like that helps me reset. But that I would say that was one of the biggest things is realizing that there isn't just like one thing, right? That will help you deal with it. It's really up to you. And it could change on the situation too.
So much of it is internal and us processing it ourselves. And then, like you said earlier, deciding I'm not going to let this thing have my full mindset anymore.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was just like, okay, like, all right, like I appreciate that. She was very honest. She was very like, that's what you need sometimes is for somebody to tell you, like, no, like I can't tell that. I can't tell you what to do. Like it's gonna be on you. Like you have to decide what that is. So I was like, thank you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Okay, we have one more question for both of the panelists, and then we'll open it up to audience Q&A. I've already seen one or two come through, so now's the time to submit them either in the chat or that Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. We'll get to it in just a minute. Paula, to start with you on this question, can you share a moment when prioritizing your well-being actually improved your performance?
Yes. It's quite regularly done. So as I mentioned, right, I set my non-negotiables. My non-negotiable is I'm going to be in the Pilates studio at least 2 times a week, at a personal trainer 1 time a week. And then, as I mentioned, my little dogs are very demanding. And so it's a 30-minute walk for me pretty much every day, unless it's below 12 degrees here in Colorado. So anyway, I, I, I do that and I set that routine, and coming into this quarter, I come in very clear-headed. every single day. We talked about resetting. I do those things to help me reset every single day. And I find that without it, I am so cluttered in my thoughts. And so if I could name a specific time where that's really helped me, um, when I was traveling a lot, not necessarily for Huntress, but for a previous role, I literally cannot function without that as a daily part of my routine. So I was at a client site and we actually just decided to go walk for our meeting, and it was amazing. It was amazing to open up the conversation, put everybody a little bit at ease. I was on the client site because we were experiencing some issues, and you can't do that all of the time, but boy, it sure really brought the temperature of that conversation down. Did I still get an earful? Yes, I did, but I feel like we were able to break through those boundaries a lot quicker and get to a resolution that was going to help everybody achieve all of our goals.
And you still got your steps in.
I did. It was fantastic. And you know what? They liked it too. So try it.
Yeah, I've done some walking meetings when we were in person for work in New York. I loved them, but then since then being remote, it'll just be like a phone call meeting, which means I can remove my face from the screen unless I need to be pulling things up. And just to have that separation, whether it's a lap in the yard or walking on my desk treadmill, it makes such a big difference. So I appreciate that. Artemisa, what are your thoughts?
Same. I would say, Paula, I try to do the same thing too. I try to put in like my workouts like in my calendar as well. So it kind of blocks that as well. So knowing like, all right, that gives me more energy. I know that I'm gonna feel good after that. Like it's fantastic. Something else that I also do when I travel. So I know that a lot of people, when you sit on a plane, I mean, first of all, there's like not a lot of space on a plane, and people love to like pull out their laptops. I can't. Like I literally take, and it's not like I travel, like hours and hours, right? It's 2, 3, 4 hours max if I'm going to California, and I just take that time. Like I try not to like connect to Wi-Fi and like and work and like all that stuff like that because it consumes you. I may be offline and read some of the stuff, but I can't be like live 100% of the time. So I really take that time to kind of reset, and especially if it's like early flights. I don't know how people do it when they have like 6, 7 a.m. and they're already like online and they're like on a plane, and then you land and then like you're taking calls. So I try to block my calendar if I'm traveling for work, make sure that one, I take the time to like all right, prepare, get there safely, so I'm not like driving and like texting or calling, get to O'Hare, the best airport ever. I'm just kidding. I know a lot of people don't like O'Hare. And then just take time. So if I can, like I try to work around like, all right, I'm going to be at the airport for a little bit, I can take a call, but I really take that time to kind of just like prepare myself for the day, right? And then like what I'm walking into, prepare myself to like, all right, we're going to go into a customer meeting, a partner meeting, like prep through where there's some slides, were there any reading materials, right? To make sure, and that like that helps with my performance. When I walk in, I'm ready to go. So just some little things that I like to do.
I'm with you on the no working on airplanes thing. Just as this is a side note, I know some people are like, oh, I get so much work done, interrupted, and blah, blah, blah. I can't do it. I'm already stressed about having to sit on an airplane, um, a metal tube flying through the air filled with germs. I don't need, to add work on top of it. So I that is my time to plug in my headphones
Yes.
and I will watch a movie, listen to music, whatever it is, because I feel like I'm better when I land.
Yes.
Very much to what you said.
Absolutely. And even in the performance too, like around like flights, like I used to try and like cram everything in a day. And it was like here, and I was finding myself like exhausted where, I mean, if you're traveling, right, you land and it's go time. And so it was like, I'm not taking these 6, 7 a.m. flights anymore. I can't do it
Mhm.
because then it would impact like the rest of the time. So it's like those little things that you knew, like, like, why am I so tired? Or I'm not able to concentrate, or why am I doing this to myself? So kind of like adjusting a little bit there too.
It's such a great point because I think a lot of times we feel like we need to maximize our days and do every single thing that we can. So that flight time is a good example where you're technically not, you're seated, you're not doing anything else, but it gives you the mental reset to not try to fit work into that as well. And you will show up better once you land and have that time. So it's a good reminder that we don't always have to be cramming things in constantly to our day, because even if physically we're not doing things, that mental load is a lot to carry. Great reminders. Thank y'all so much. We've had a couple questions come in, so let's get to those. And again, if you have any others, go ahead and submit them now. As you've progressed in your roles, did you ever have imposter syndrome? And then how have you handled that? And whoever has a thought first can jump in.
Oh, I mean, that's all the time. Like for me, I try to like, oh, I was like, is this really real? Is this like, what are they sure they want me to do this? Like, are you sure you want me to do this here? Like, what did I volunteer myself for? Or what am I doing here? All the time. And like, then I think back of just like the experience and like, what I've been able to go through, my accomplishments, like what I'm so proud of, where I started too, right? And just like, there's so many people that were able to help me. So whenever I can, I say like, I mean, you don't have to listen to me, but here's my advice, right? And so just making sure like, to give back as well. But it's all the time. It's talking myself through it. Like, you got this, like, go forward. Surrounding myself with, positive people as well. Like those people that, also give me great advice and, create that positivity as well, like around, and my husband too, he always helps me out and tells me like, you got this, you got everything, you got the skill set and all this stuff like that. But it's hard to overcome, especially as you go after new roles, as you progress in your career, as you see, what's going on around you, as people will put doubts in your head, or you see what others say about people. So it's definitely constant, but it's sometimes just blocking that noise.
Yes, I feel the same. Like after my illustrious career that I have had, I still feel that on a regular basis. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous and somewhat corny, but I have leveraged AI at various times where now that you can record, you can put a prompt in with your voice and whatnot. I literally walked through each of my jobs. What were the main things I took away, I learned at that role? And ChatGPT is going to tell you all of the wonderful things about you, right? It's never going to be skeptical. But it actually helped me think about some things that I didn't think were as big of a deal of an experience into something that was a little bit more tangible for me to then carry with me into my next role and put it into context. So if you're comfortable in giving that information into whatever AI tool of choice, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever, tell it your story and see what it comes back and tells you about yourself that you are overlooking.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone has a story. Everyone has a different background. Everyone has different lessons learned. Like, and many times it's one of those where like no one can tell your story because you've gone through it yourself. And there's a lot of lessons learned there. I love that.
Yeah. We've talked a bit today about some of the personal care things that you do, some of the mental breaks that you give yourself to reset, to avoid burnout. What about for those that don't have managers who appreciate the need for that boundary setting and personal space and time? How do you navigate that, or what advice do you have for those in that situation?
Oh, I mean, I like having that transparent conversation, right? I think hopefully everyone is having those one-on-ones, maybe, kind of sharing from your perspective, right? So not necessarily like calling something out, but just like what you would appreciate, or, what could help you and enable you to be better, right? A performer and whatever that may be, right? So bringing it from my perspective versus kind of shifting it like, oh, like, hey, like you're constantly giving me all these fire drills, right? So kind of shifting that where like it could help you. I would say, having those those conversations and kind of flip it a little bit.
Mhm.
I agree with that. This is also one of those times where it's about prioritization. So it is so important to me to get that movement in and have that time. And I am not suggesting this for everybody, but I am a very early morning person. So I just start my day. I don't even want to tell you because it's an obscene time, that early, because it's that important to me. And we just know, right? Hey, and like you said, I block it off on my calendar, and what I literally put in there is no
That's
for the meeting title. No. And it just has never been a problem for me. But once again, I think maybe I might be sacrificing myself. But anyway, that's how I've chosen to do it, because it's all about trade-offs. It's all about priorities, and that's just when I get it done.
I love it. Well, Paula, now people want to know, what time do you get up?
We have
I
to
get up at
know.
4 and I'm at the gym at like 5 or 5:30.
Oh
So
my gosh, that is early.
But now, do you set an alarm for that, or has your body caught on?
no,
Wow.
no, I don't need to set an alarm anymore. And what's interesting is even when I travel amongst time zones, I'm still waking up at that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour. So
Interesting.
whatever I've done to myself, it transcends time. I do not recommend that for everybody, just as a side note, nor am I advocating it. It's just what works for me. And back to what Artemisa said, that, her mentor told her, which is, it's not gonna be the same for everybody.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely not for me.
Yeah, you said you started Orange Theory, Artemis. So what time do you do that daily, or does that depend on the class time?
Oh, so it used to be in the morning, but now I actually transitioned to the afternoon. So I'm in this like weird stage, right? So what am I mentioned, right? So my kids were little, and I had a lot of stuff going on after work, and now it's not so much. So now my workouts are transitioning to the afternoon, just to walk away from my desk, because I need to find something to do now afterwards. So it's transition where it used to be early and I was getting up early, and now I'm just like, you know what? Let me try like evenings, and I actually kind of like it.
Yeah.
I get a couple extra hours of sleep. So
I, I find the early morning gym crowd is like serious business. Like there
yeah,
is no like chit chat going on. You're in there to work out. It's not a social thing, and it kind of matches my jam at that time of the day. So anyway, it worked for me.
If I was waking up at 4 a.m., I would want no one to talk to me either. So maybe that's part of it, Paula. And what I'm getting to from this conversation is protecting your energy can change. It can be adaptable, it can be fluid. You have to really think about where you are in your life at that point, what's bringing you
Yeah.
energy, and adapt from there. So really appreciate you, both of you, sharing how you've done that along your career and how you're continuing to evolve that because you have these mindsets in place now. Thank you so much for joining us today. I will send a recap hopefully tomorrow, if not by Monday, with some of the highlights from the conversation as well as the recording, so y'all can watch this back if needed. Both Huntress and Zebra Technologies are hiring, so I'm just going to drop this link here in the chat. If you want to check out any of their open roles, you can do so there. And I will also have Artemisa and Paula's LinkedIn's in this recap email, so you can connect with them online and continue the conversation from there. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time.
thank you
Thank
so much.
you.